Betway SA20 ambassador AB de Villiers, good to see you again. We're right at the end. We've just got one more game to go.
Yes, that's true. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the finals day. It's very exciting. I think the Betway SA20 have built it all up to this amazing climax. It's been an incredible tournament. I think on television screens, on your tele screens, you would have seen the crowds packed. Amazing cricket. Youngsters come through. The experienced campaigners arriving just in time to take their teams to the final. So it's all waiting for us today. It's very exciting. There's a bit of rain in the air, but we'll discuss that later. Hopefully it will not be a problem. But I'm very excited, and I know all of you are excited. So many highlights in this tournament to talk about.
Yeah, a hell of a lot of highlights. I mean, you previously said you fancied Pretoria Capitals to make it all the way to the final, and they have. They've probably been the most consistent team in the tournament, so they deserve it.
I've got to be very honest. They were my dark horse team, not my favourites. I'm a Pretoria boy, so obviously I've always wanted them to do well. But that very opening, the first game, and this is the big surprise to me, I was that MI Cape Town and Paul Royals. I thought we were going to see at least both of them in the knockouts. I wasn't thinking necessarily finals, because T20 cricket, anything can happen sometimes. But it was very surprising not to see MI Cape Town there. But very quickly into the tournament, 4 or 5 games in, we saw the Pretoria Capitals putting up their hands. And I think about 4 games in, I realised, hold on, these guys are going to go all the way.
And obviously the other finalist, again, a lot of people's sort of dark horse. Sunrisers, Eastern Cape have timed their return to form, and the way they played in that semi-final against Josie Kings, they'll be hard to beat in that final.
You sum it up absolutely spot on there. They timed the momentum. They weren't the most consistent team in the tournament, but I think if you look at the build-up, the makeup of the team, there's a really nice balance. They just couldn't get going, you know. And once they got a bit of momentum, they took their opportunities at the right time. And I think some of their senior players stood up and put in big performances exactly when they needed it. And no better than guys like Aiden Markram, Roel van der Merwe, Sisanda Magala. Those 3 really stand out. When it mattered most, they said, I'm taking control of this game.
I want to stay with Sunrisers. You've obviously seen a lot of Aiden Markram. He came into the team when you were at the helm, and you've always said that you rate him. That's probably one of the best individual performances that we've seen from him, making 100 in that semi-final. Just how well did he play?
Yeah, you know, I know now what it feels like to sit on the side and to sort of feel attached to a player. From the day he started, I felt that connection with him, you know. So it's been very frustrating the last 12 to 18 months. Not frustrating, like really, I was like sad. he's so good, and he's got so much potential to be an incredible leader, playing all the formats for a very long time for South Africa, win a lot of games. He's got it, I promise you that. And the last 18 months, it's just been like, he's not getting there. Softest missile, another softest missile, little bit of something there. Oh no, he goes down again. So it was this breakthrough innings for me, and it sets him up for the rest of the season, I feel, in all the formats, wherever he plays. That will mean a lot to him. I know he's a guy he's quite a sensitive soul. He's a very humble person, works hard at his game. He takes it personally when he doesn't perform well. And that's what sort of made me so happy in that last knock. I knew what it meant to him, you know, and for him to play a flawless knock against Josie, Super Kings in the semi-finals at Centurion was just superb. And he showed that experience, that class. He showed everything in one innings. And I think the rest of, well, let's say for the rest of the season and the next 5 years to come, I think we're going to see some fireworks from him.
And just staying with Aiden, we also saw what it meant to his dad. Picked it up on the cameras. We saw tears of joy. Obviously, you play for yourself, you play for your team, but there's always a big support base as well that's just as nervous as you as a player.
Yeah, as a player, when you go through patches like that, you don't really need a big support base, but a important support base. People like your family, close friends. People have been there when it mattered most. Not only there when you do well, you know. So there's a handful that are always there for me in those moments, and that I sort of fell back to. And that's exactly what you saw in his dad's face. You could see that his dad's been going through the tough times with him the last 18 months, and that was a big breakthrough moment for the whole family and his close unit.
Talk about the Capitals. They've lost a big leader in Parnell for the last couple of games with that hamstring injury, but there've been other guys who stood up. Let's start with Ethan Bosch, maybe with the ball, who's been really more and more impressive as the tournament has gone on.
they just look calm as a unit, you know, right from the coaching staff down to the most junior player in the team. It just looks like there's a plan. Even that, and the great test was when Pani got injured. There was no panic. There was still that sense of calmness. They were tested in that semi-finals in Joburg at the Wanderers, and that was the big test. If they crumbled there, all of a sudden everyone would have looked like, Pani's injury. Is the coaching staff unsettled? They stood that. They got through that challenge. And I feel it bodes well for the final for them. They've been tested now. They were the most consistent team throughout the tournament. And now it's just a matter of going through that paces again, and when it matters most, to just up that gear to take control of the game.
The difference often in finals like today's will often be a moment of brilliance from a player. Jimmy Neesham has produced his own highlights reel throughout this Betway SA20. Those catches that we saw in their second to last league game against Durban Supergiants, just talk us through those.
Incredible. The Pretoria Capitals have a lot of players like that. I can go through a list. I mean, Adil Rashid, Jimmy Neesham, Anrich Norkia. The opening stands they've been having is the best in the tournament, most runs in the power plays. So there's lots of Riley Rousseau coming to form. That's big danger for the Sunrisers Eastern Cape. But Jimmy Neesham, just a very experienced player, New Zealander. He's a hard man. He fights for the win. He's competitive. And you can see that in the field. That's always a very good way to measure a guy's anticipation and hunger and desire to have an impact on the team performing well. And Jimmy Neesham taking catches like that tells you he's switched on. He's here to help his team cross the line and lift the trophy ultimately. We've saw some blinders at Centurion Park, diving to his weak hand, to his right hand, his strong hand. Both sides flawless and a great sign for the final once again.
You mentioned Riley, but in that middle order, Pretoria Capitals have not just Riley, they've also got Colin Ingram, who can also go through the gears. So just how dangerous is that middle order for the Sunrisers that the Capitals have?
I forgot to mention him. He's a fantastic addition, and whoever got hold of him to bring him to the Pretoria Capitals did really good work for them. Once again, very experienced guy. He's travelled the world. He's done well everywhere he's gone. And in that middle order, I know the opening pairs are important, but in crunch games, knockout games, if you have a 4, 5, 6 that are experienced, that are in form, more often than not, you're going to either post a good total or defend or chase anything. So yes, Colin Ingram, Riley Rousseau, both left-handed. It's sometimes difficult. When lefties get going, they score. They just score constantly. I think you saw that in the test match yesterday, Akshar Patel and Jadu getting together there. Aussie just started leaking. So two left-handers in that middle order in form is very valuable for them.
Big game players. Rula van der Merwe, on commentary you're talking about how you've played with him through the years, and in a tough crunch moment, there's no one that you'd rather have in the trenches. What makes Rula van der Merwe such a big game player?
It's his desire and competitiveness, his hunger. I've known him since we were at school, and that has always stayed the same. No matter whether he plays backyard cricket or plays in the World Cup final, that's what you're gonna get. And he's one of those guys that he gets frustrated and upset when he's not in the mix, you know. He wants to bowl the final over. I promise you, if he could, he would literally bowl death. He would bowl anywhere. Give him the new ball, he'll have an impact. And if he doesn't have an impact, it would be down to incredible batting. So as a captain, I would go like, you know what, if this guy's going to take you out of the attack, they've played well, you know. That's all you want from those kind of guys. And Rula is the best example of that.
Okay. And again, someone else who's come into this tournament and changed their fortunes, coming very late into the team is Themba Bavuma, who obviously in those international break changed and got 100 and sort of upped the ante. How crazy is it? How quickly can the game change that someone like that is now coming and he's in a final? He's got a chance to potentially help Sunrisers to win the tournament.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I'm very happy for Thames. You know, he's been through a tough time as well. I know what it feels like to all of a sudden you're captain. There are World Cups, performance up and down. You have that shock against Holland. There's a lot that runs through your mind. A lot of people asking you, the pressures on you, like, are you going to leave the captaincy? And ultimately you find yourself with a bat in the middle going like, I've still got to score runs here, and there's so much going on. So I'm very happy for him that he got that breakthrough, had a fantastic series against England. And he's been very unlucky. He's only played 3 games. 2 of them, I can tell you, very unlucky, and the other one he scored a 50. So he's going to be a force to be dealt with in that final, I think. He can play that anchor role for them, take a bit of pressure off Aiden, Stubbsy, and some of the guys who are in form who can go big. I think Temba can play that anchor role and still score at 120, 130, 140 strike rate even. Playing at the Wanderers, he knows the bull ring really well. And ultimately, what I want to finish off with him, I'm just very happy for him. And I feel that it was a big breakthrough series for him to sort of go like, you know what, I am the captain of South Africa and I belong here. So now he'll sort of settle down and he can go out there and go and try win a final for his team and then get back into the SA setup and start dominating.
Yeah, you speak about the bull ring. You've obviously had some fantastic memories at the bull ring. What makes it such a special venue when you get to big games with a full house in there?
Yeah, I'd say the people listening, the guys coming out at the bull ring to come and support us. That's what makes it special. That's what made that day special for me. The pink day, I had to pinch myself. I think I was 30 off. I can't remember how many balls, and I just sort of had a quick pause and looked around and realized how lucky I was to be out there. My parents were there that day, and it's just an electrifying atmosphere, and that's what makes the bull ring. It's second to none when it comes to atmosphere. It's loud, and when the home team gets going, it gets difficult to stop. There's no home team there today, though, so let's see which side the Joburg people pick.
We've seen a big migration from Pretoria going to the semi-final for Pretoria Capitals fans. You spoke about atmosphere, and obviously there was a break in between, but as soon as the tournament started again, big crowds again in every venue. Just how special has it been?
Yeah, Centurion Park's supporters and the Sky Blue supporters, you've seen the Sky Blue flags. They've always been a very loyal fan base. I'm expecting to see a lot of them out there today. It's a 30-40 minute drive. I think the Pretoria Capitals will get some really good support. And yes, I'm just happy for them that they got through. I know Jacques Callis is there, Dale Benkenstein, Graham Ford. They've all been in contact with me, with my thoughts. And even though they're so experienced, they reach out to figure out stuff about Centurion, what we think make up their teams, which is quite cool. So I have a little bit of a personal touch with the Pretoria Capitals, but it's difficult to pick a side. It might be a shortened game, I don't know. Looking outside, maybe it's a 15-over game. Does that change the dynamic of the teams? Do you maybe play a spinner less or not a spinner at all? It's difficult, even though the Joburg wicket has been turning. There's lots to think about, and today, more than ever, they'll have to think on their feet.
You picked out one young player, and obviously you've got the Midas touch, because the minute you mentioned young Herman, he came in that semi and made a really serious contribution. Just this platform and what it's meant playing in the Betway SA20 for so many of these youngsters. Can you see the maturity come through?
Absolutely, it's incredible. Coming back to that knock, it was a little bit overshadowed by Aiden's amazing innings. But that partnership was the backbreaker. It forced Joburg to start making mistakes. You saw that full toss freed, you saw some wides, you saw uncharacteristic mistakes. They say when you do a live feed like this, never try and repeat the word, and I just did that. Uncharacteristic mistakes from Joburg, and that was forced because of that partnership. And for a young guy to stand there with his captain to bite it through, it wasn't easy in the start. I think he's got a bright future, I really do. I know there's some county teams trying to get hold of him. There'll be a lot of leagues looking in his direction. And not just him. I think there's a list of 10 to 15 youngsters. When you look at that emerging players list, they're all very talented players that all of a sudden started going like, you know what, I'm also part of the South African setup. I've got the potential and the talent to play here. And they got some incredible exposure in this tournament. And I think that experience they picked up here, they'll take on for the rest of their careers.
One of the final questions is, a lot of people have been asking, which of the bowlers, as a batsman yourself, which one do you think would have been hardest to face for you in this tournament? Was it someone like a pacer like Anrich, or was it some of the spinners like Roloff or Shamsi? Who have you looked at and said, geez, I'm glad I'm not facing him?
It's a good question. It wouldn't be pace for me, especially at Centurion and Joburg. The faster it comes, the further it travels. With all due respect to Anas, he's got me out before in Dubai. I'll never forget that, so respect. But I would have liked to face Anrich at Centurion Park, where it comes on, pace on the ball. Joburg, where the wicket's been doing a bit, and it's got these weird little cutters and stuff, where when you bowl fast pace there, it almost takes that away a little bit in a way, and it's any bat and it goes to the boundary. Where I think I'm thinking of out loud guys like, it's not in the tournament, but like someone like a Vern Philander at Wanderers would be an absolute headache. Just a little bit stand-up kind of wicket, moves around. There's no pace. You can't get it off the deck. So I would say, if a spinner, Roelof van der Merwe, no doubt, he wants the ball no matter where he bowls, he's going to do well. And I think Sisanda Magala stood out for me. Very good cutters. He asks the questions wicket to wicket all the time. He's not scared of bowling a bouncer out of nowhere. Doesn't have the lightning pace than as a Heinrich Nortje has, but very sharp, and he fires in those Yorkers when it's necessary. I think an all-round good bowler who's shown everyone in the last while, even though he's had a lot of question marks about a lot of things in his bowling, he's put up his hand and said, listen, I belong at the highest level.
Final question. You obviously wear many Betway SA20 hats. One of them is going to be commentating today.
Yeah.
Which one is more fun, the power play or the last 4 or 5 overs when the pressure's really on and we're going to see who's going to win?
I've actually been talking a little bit in the last 5 overs, and I must say it's very enjoyable. I like to go from the start so that you're not that guy that goes at the end. Yes, but I told you it's going to be over 200 wickets. I'd like to go there on the deck beforehand and go, you know what? I'm favouring this team. I think it's going to be a 180 par. If you get 190, it's difficult to defend. And if I'm actually look back after 20 overs and go like, it was actually really good, a summary of the conditions and the game. I enjoy that. So I like the pre-match. Lots of excitement on the park. Lots of butterflies flying around, and we'll see more of that today.
Awesome. AB de Villiers, Betway SA20 ambassador. Thanks very much. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. And I'll see you all at the Wanderers.